quickly, our first objective is to talk about our resources and announcements. So with that being said, I just want to make sure you know where the integrated workspace resources are at. And it's got a kind of like a facelift recently, just because training materials kind of get outdated at times, right? Things have changed and look differently. So it does have a little bit different look, but it's under the Gmail app. So if you were on the Google Help site, you would go to the Google Workspace app or tab, excuse me, the menu, and you would navigate to the Gmail one. And that's exactly where I'm at. So if you were like, how did you find that? Well, it's under the Google Help website, and you can see there's a section called Gmail, Integrated Workspace, and then Secure Mail. It falls into that bucket. So that's where it's at. So we have the cheat sheet, the quick start guides, the chat spaces, one-pagers, and best practices. Google did a really good job of providing really good resources regarding integrated workspace. And so I want to make sure you know where those are at, because that's where the resources are going to be the most up to date. Google has a few more people employed than the state of Iowa, and so they do a better job of updating resources. That's about as simple as it gets, right? Because it constantly changes, but changes in a naughty word. It's just that it needs to be updated, and they do a great job of doing so. So I want to kind of give you a quick glance at these resources because they're so valuable, especially for someone that's new or someone that just hasn't used it. And the integrated workspace is a great place for us now more than ever, right? Jolene and I, she's working at home, I'm working at home. We're not talking to each other behind the cubicle walls, right? So the chat feature, the space feature, we use that constantly to collaborate. And so it's just even more important now than it ever was before, right? So that hybrid model that maybe your agency is using, or maybe some of you are in the office, some of you are working remote, maybe all of you are working remote. It's hard to know what bucket you fall in, but that's the beauty of the integrated workspace. It gives us the capability of collaborating just like we used to back in the day across the cubicle, and sometimes probably even more efficient because we get to answer when we can and research it and not put on the spot too. I find that I'm better that way too as well. So let's go ahead and navigate to the cheat sheet. So this is a cheat sheet. Google likes to provide cheat sheets for all Google Workspace apps, and it's a great way to get started. It gives you a quick little picture of this. And the reason I want to point this out, this is going to kind of change, right? So we want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information as well. So it kind of gives you a quick way of understanding where all the little buttons, what you do when you hover over a button, it kind of tells you exactly what actions you can do in the different locations of the integrated workspace. So it's a great way to get started within the integrated workspace. So always check out cheat sheets if you're especially new to the state of Iowa. Always check out the Google Workspace cheat sheets. Now, I want to go ahead and go to the quick start guides. And the reason why I'm going here is because this is kind of what we use for our slide deck when we implemented integrated workspace. It's been in 2020, I believe, is when the integrated workspace launched in the winter of 2020. And we took a lot of these resources and put it into a slide deck. And so we just decided to remove the slide deck, so it's kind of outdated, but we just want to link them to the resources that are currently up to date. And so this is one of these things that we talked about. So we have the integrated workspace, which is inside your Gmail. We have the chat, we have the group chat, we have spaces, which is formerly known as rooms, and we have Google Meet, and then email, obviously, is another way we communicate. And so what is the best source to communicate, right? If it's a formal structured email or a formal structured communication, such as an announcement, hey, we have this update coming up. It's really important that you follow these instructions. It's a formal written communication, right? So you can see that Google is trying to tell you a formal and structured communication probably should be in what type of format? Email. All right, so let's put on a different bucket, a different hat. So let's say I want to talk to Jolene. Hey, you want to have lunch tomorrow? Or hey, you want to get together? Or hey, are you going downtown? Hey, can you pick up my coat? Because that's something she's done for me. Or hey, can you look at this communication real quick? Anything, like it's informal. Grammar doesn't matter in a sense. Here, do this for me. Do this for me. What do you think? Whatever. Communication. This is the cubicle conversation, right? Hey, how are you doing? Right? Anything. Send a little smile, emoji. You express yourself, right? That's a direct message to Jolene and myself, right? We're communicating just her and I. So that would be a great chat feature, right? You don't want to send all those little, hey, how you doing in an email, right? Those are kind of type of communications. A chat would be a great way to communicate in those ways. Now spaces, and you're going to have to, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'll probably say rooms. So if I say spaces and rooms, it's interchangeable. They're the exact same thing. It was first known as rooms, and then they had to change the name. And when you change the name for a trainer, it's really hard for them to adjust to that. So it is truly the same thing, spaces and rooms. So if you're like, I didn't know it changed name, it did change name. I can't remember when, but it did. But spaces is a great way for a team collaboration. So let's put this in perspective. That would be the Google team, for example. Or we actually have a new team, which is this Android thing that we're working on. We call it the Android team. It's not everybody in the Google team, but it is an elite few of us, right? But it's a team of so many people. So let's stick with the Google team. So that would be the 5 of us, right? We all get together. We have a weekly meeting. We have projects that we're working on. We need to discuss updates. Everybody needs to be in the know, right? So that's a great way to collaborate as a team, right? And then in that space or in that room, whatever you want to call it, you can actually assign tasks. You can add files. It's got like its own little bin in a sense, and it's all in one little space, in a collaborative space. So that's great use of spaces. Now, some of us now we have the option, most of us have probably became Meet experts, right? We got to meet virtually, right? That's kind of how most of us are doing that nowadays. So you have that video conference option. And I kind of think Meet falls into, especially in chat and spaces altogether, because you can send a Meet inside a space, you can send a Meet inside a chat, you can go to meetings through your Gmail as well. So I just really like this infographic because sometimes we need to know why we want to use these tools, right? And what is the best practice? And so this is a really good guide for you. It's a really nice infographic. And then it actually goes one step further, best practices for communication. If communication is not your thing, and Jolene can vouch that for me, sometimes I struggle with that. And it even goes in a little bit further, communications, use cases. So again, I strongly recommend that you check out this. Like if you're unsure which way to go, like what's the best solution for this problem, right? We're not even talking about Google Groups, which is another concept, which you might want to use that for your communication process. So this resource, I just really want to point it out. First, go here and determine what is your need, what is your case scenario, and then Google's going to help guide you and tell you this would be a great use of fill in the blank, right? So just kind of making sure that you're aware of that resource. And then last thing, when we did the integrated workspace training back in November of 2020, we got the request from our users that we really liked the idea of rooms at the time, spaces. I just really don't know how to get started. And we don't do a whole lot of one-pagers in a sense, but this was a request. And when people request and we feel like this could be useful for others, we're going to do it. And that's exactly what we did. We put a Google Chat space one-pager. So if you're thinking about implementing spaces in your organization, this is a great way to kind of understand how to get started. What do you need to know? And we're going to talk about that in the demo portion. But again, this is, again, a great one-pager. We have a one-pager for Google Meet as well. For those that maybe want to use it and have a great one-stop shop page for you. So definitely check out that as well if you want to. So all these resources, again, that I'm talking about are all on the Gmail page in our Google Workspace option in our Google Help site. So again, just want to point those out for you. So this is a really valuable resource on our Google Help site regarding the integrated workspace. So the one thing I wanted to kind of just show you is the sneak peek of the new layout. There is another resource, and we'll post some of this on the Google Help page once it's live. But again, I wanted to provide you a sneak peek of what it's going to look like. It's really not much different, but I do want to talk about it because it's so close to being launched that you guys need a sneak peek on it, right? So you'll notice in that document, you can get there later if you want to, but there is a video, and I don't like playing videos on top of videos. It's just not something I prefer to do. But you'll see there's a great little video right here, and also that same video is in that Google Doc. But this gives you a good idea of what it's going to look like. One of the things you need to be realizing is that the chat is going to be on the left-hand side now. To make this integrated workspace work, again, we get the option to opt in to this opportunity. You get to opt in and you can opt out for a while. So this isn't like everybody has to do this now. It's kind of like when we changed to Gmail interface, the new one, we had the option to opt in for such amount of time and opt out to the old look. That's kind of what's going to be the similar rollout for this as well. So I always say, though, it's better to opt in and get used to it than to opt out of it, right? Because you know it's going to change sooner or later, so you might as well get used to it now instead of when you're trying to really have no choice, right? But you'll notice here that it just kind of, everything's on the left-hand side. You have a new bubble action over here. So if Jolene and I were chatting, I'll get a new bubble, which is another visual indicator that someone's chatting you. So that's great. You'll have the app menus on the left-hand side. So it's more a material design layout where you have the Gmail, the chat, and the spaces, and the Meet. You get the icon of what you're actually working with. You have the similar hamburger is what I call it. You'll have the show and hide, and you'll have more of a collapsible panel. And so it gives you more real estate. If you choose to, you'll be able to adjust a lot easier. You can read here all the new chat experience and what you'll see. Again, as I mentioned, you'll have the option to opt in, opt out of the new view. And again, I can't show you this, but that's what you have available for you within the new look. So the other thing is you can always check out the Google Workspace update to learn more. Again, just to give you a sneak peek, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it looks like they might have updated this recently. So this was launched, the post, excuse me, was launched January 31st. So it's been a while, but you can kind of see the timeline and when this is going to launch. And then you'll see, again, another screenshot of what it's going to look like. You're not going to notice that much difference, but just want to make sure you're aware of. And you can see that we fall under the scheduled release domain. And you knew here extended. Extended does truly mean extended. We're not supposed to see it until February 28th, which is still really not that far along, but it's 15 days after that, possibly. Again, it could be longer. I was checking our test domain, and that was February 11th, which is still not there yet. So we're just going to have to wait patiently and look for that announcement when we start seeing it in our domain. But again, I really don't want to talk too intelligent because I kind of more of a hands-on. I have to play with it to really understand it. I do know some of the things that we'll talk more about it in the future, or what you need to know about it as we go through the demo portion. But I do want to provide you a lot of resources regarding the new update. So just kind of notice that everything under Objective 1, under this document that you have access to, talks about all the bells and whistles. And it's a really rough draft of our communication that we're going to send out. But so we'll dive into the more hands-on portion next. This is where I'd like, any questions? And I'm like, I can't ask that, but you know how to reach us if you have any questions. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go to Objective 2, which is to design our new workspace. So we're going to just kind of follow these objectives, and I'm going to go ahead and close some of these tabs because I have a lot open. And I'm going to go to Gmail. Maybe if I typed it in right, which I didn't. All righty. It looks like it's trying to change, but we're just going to assume that it's not quite here yet. So with that, that's usually what happens. First thing we're going to do is design our new workspace. So one of the places that we go to design our workspace is to go to our settings. And so we're going to go ahead and go to our gear, and we're going to go to see all settings. And we're going to go ahead and navigate there. And we've talked about this in our beginning and intermediate. We've talked about most of these tabs up here already, but let's go ahead and go to the chat and meet again. So let's go ahead and go to the chat and meet. We're going to make some adjustments to some of the things I said because of this change. So this is important. So the first thing, we want to use chat. Let's go ahead and use chat. And we're going to go ahead and manage our chat settings. We're going to dive into this a little bit more than we did originally. But first of all, your desktop notifications, we want to allow chat notifications. If you want to enable it, you would need to follow this prompt and go ahead and allow those notifications to appear on your browser. You can go ahead and do that. The other thing is you want to open chat for new messages. I would strongly recommend that. What happens is when you start a new chat, it will pop up at the bottom of your Gmail. So that's just kind of what we're used to in any chat feature. So just go ahead and let it pop up, excuse me. Tones, this is your choice. You can choose the tone that you want to hear if you want to allow that when a new chat appears. So that's up to you. The next one is email notifications. Receive an email if you haven't read a message. I like this because I don't know if you're like me, you get a little busy sometimes. And you're like, oh, I read that chat, but I didn't go back to it. That's not a good example. Let me backtrack. Let's say I saw a chat come in, but I didn't open it. Okay. But I didn't open it, and now it's 5 o'clock. I'm done for the day. And more likely the next day, I'll actually get an email saying, hey, it was a direct message from Jolene. I missed it. I didn't open it. I didn't read that. So that I get an email saying, hey, you might want to check this chat, and it'll tell me the conversation. Also, maybe it's in a space, and I got an @Jessica. @ will mean a mention of me, right? And I didn't read that space comment, and I didn't see that. But time passed. Next day, I might get that email saying, oh, I need to go back to look at that. So I guess my opinion, because of those two examples, is I would make sure that you have only @mentions and direct messages selected, because we do miss things, right? We are bombarded all the time, right? And so that gives you an opportunity to really say you didn't miss it, and Google's going to help you out. The other two I'm not going to talk about. If you want to block people, you're going to find a way to block them. And hopefully, for I don't know why you want to block people sometimes, but if there's somebody that's bombarding you too much, I guess you can block them, but be careful on that. Then blocking spaces, which is another thing. So maybe you want to block a space that you joined. You're like, I don't want to be in this. I just want to block it. But you can always leave a space as well. So we'll talk about that more. But so I kind of hesitant on those two options, but I want to make sure you're aware where that is. And so this next one is hard for me to swallow, and Jolene's smiling in the background. I always like the chat on the right-hand side, but I'm going to have to change, and change is good. With the new integrated workspace that's going to be launched, the right-sided chat doesn't work with it. So this is going to change. This is one of those things I'm giving you a sneak peek and some information on it. So if you like the right side, you might want to adapt and change it to the left, because that's how it's going to work with the integrated workspace change. So the right side chat will no longer be available if you want the new look. Okay, so
go team left side. Yay, go team left side.
Thanks, Jolene. Yes, I get to swallow my pride on that one. So left is probably the good selection for today and for a while, right? Then the other one is to show the meet section in the main menu. Yes, I'll explain that. I strongly encourage that you show the meet section, because that is really how I join 90% of my Google Meets, is going to the meet section in my Gmail app. I do not go to my calendar. I do not go to my calendar. I don't go to meet.google. I go to the meet section in my integrated workspace to join a meeting. So it saves me a lot of clicks, because I'm always having my Gmail open. So I recommend that you show the meet section in the main menu. If you made any changes to that, you will need to go ahead and click Save Changes, and then it will take you back to your inbox. And maybe, it looks like it's changing. I just was in this yesterday, and it didn't show me this. This is how it always goes. So I think we've kind of got the new look already. Alrighty, so with that, the other thing I want to just give you a little tour. So again, my chat and everything's on the left-hand side. And you'll notice up here at the top, this is what we call our actives menu. Like, what is your status menu is what I should probably call it. What is your status for today? A lot of times I fall under the automatic, means based on your browser activity. So if you're in Gmail, it's going to say automatic. So if you step away and you're idle, I think it's 15 minutes. If you're idle for 15 minutes, then it's going to mark you as away. Okay. So whatever you want to do. I'm using the do not disturb right now, because I got a lot of communications going right now. So I didn't want to be interrupted as I'm trying to present. So I turned on the do not disturb. That's an option for you. So like if you are presenting or in your very important meeting, you can select do not disturb for a certain time period as well. So that's important. The other one is if you want to just say, hey, I'm set as away, and I don't want to be bombarded. Well, I guess I'm not being bombarded. I can still get a chat. Don't get me wrong. You still can get a chat. It's just that the matter of when I'm looking at, if Jolene puts herself as set as away, she's going to know that I might not get a response, right? If I'm sending a chat to Jolene and she's got set as away, she's telling me she's not really at her desk. So I shouldn't expect a response in a timely manner, okay? Now, this next one is amazing. So what we're going to do is for example, this is something people want to know where people are working. This is a request that we get a lot. Like, how can I know who's working where? Well, this is one of those options you can do this. And I recommend this. If your management is saying, I want to know if you're working from home or you're working in the office, this is a quick way to do this. You can go ahead and click Add Status. And you can then obviously have some default options here. I'm going to be right back in 30 minutes. I'm commuting. I'm out sick. We hope that's not it, but vacationing sounds amazing. So you have some like default options here. But let's say, for example, and this is a true example, I'm working from home. So I can click on that emoji icon and I can type in the word home and it'll pick up any of those emojis that fall into that category. And I'm going to select the home and I could just say working remotely, working from home, working from WFH, working from home. Don't want to say anything wrong, WFH. And you can select how long you're going to have that. Like if this is going to be your week status, I can select a week. Now, when Jolene sends a message to me, she's going to see this little icon knowing that I'm working from home. Or if I'm going to be out for vacation, when I'm chatting, it's just a visual indicator. We like those visual indicators, right? So that's a really good feature. I love that feature. That's probably one of my top tips that came out last year. So again, this little active status. And again, use it to indicate what you're doing. If you don't want to be disturbed, put do not disturb on, right? So with that, we're going to move on to objective 3. So we're going to just follow along in these objectives. The next one is we're going to, let's chat with a friend. So I want you to kind of remember the infographic that we were looking at before. And this would be an example of, hey, you want to do lunch? Hey, how you doing in the break room? The break room conversations. Or, hey, can you check on this for me? It's a direct message with one coworker, right? Let's chat with a friend. And my friend today is Jolene. She's going to be trainer 5 today. So we're going to chat back and forth, and we're going to just kind of show you some things on how direct messages work. So with that, that's the hat we have on right now. That's the communication. So it's a direct individual message with a friend or a coworker, right? One person. So let's go ahead and do that. So how do I start a chat? Well, now that we have it on the left-hand side, you're going to see me fumble. You can see that you have the chat option over here. You can click on the plus button. And you have all these options there. You have an option to start a group conversation, create a space, whatever the case may be. You can see that you have some message requests and so much more. But if I just want to talk to one person, I can go ahead and just type in their email up at the top and find them and say, okay, I'm ready to start a communication with trainer 5, which is Jolene today. I didn't go. Because I have not started a direct message with trainer 5 yet. This is like a brand new conversation. I've never talked to trainer 5 before via chat, okay? So now that I have that, you can see over here, and I'll pull this up in full screen, but this is the pop-up that I was talking about. It just opens like a layer on top of your Gmail. Now, sometimes I prefer, especially when I'm training, I will go to full screen, okay? Just one, so you guys can see it better. But sometimes most of the time when I'm communicating, I'm just right inside here, okay? But sometimes you might want to pop the chat into full screen. So you just click on the arrow and it will pop up in full screen. So we're going to do that now just so you guys can see it better. But that works really well. So now what do we have here? So first thing I want to point out, this is very important. Notice when you start a chat, in our domain, we have history on. History is on. So what does that mean? Yes, it's going to the vault and everything you put in chat is discoverable. There is no like true private conversation. So if you're worried about getting in trouble, well, don't put it in chat. Don't put it in email, right? So make smart choices. This isn't a history off conversation. So whatever I send to Jolene is can be pulled in our vault system and can be discoverable. History is on. You cannot turn it off. History is on. Okay, so that's really important to know. So this is pretty simple. This isn't much different than messaging on Facebook. We all know how to do this, but we're just going to kind of quickly go over this. So if I want to send a message, just a text to Jolene, I could just type in hi, and there she goes, and then she can respond back with hi if she wants to, or goodbye. I don't care what she responds. But when she does respond, there's a lot of things you can do when you can react to a message, no different than you do on your iPhone or your Facebook message, right? If I hover over the hey from trainer 5, which is Jolene today, you notice you have some options here. You have the option to react. And this is just like, hey, thumbs up, hey, like it. You have all these different emojis you can select from. And Google has updated their emoji experience to give you an option to be more authentic as well. So there's a lot of ways to express who you are and how you feel. So go ahead and select the emoji that applies to that comment. Sometimes it's a thumb down, right? Or whatever you want to do there. So you have that. This is a brand new feature, and I haven't even done the current post on this yet because it took a while to roll out. But you have the option to mark it as unread. So if I didn't read that, I can mark it as unread, and notice then it falls under the line. That is huge. Many of us use the unread feature inside of our Gmail, right? I open the message, I just cannot compute this right now. I kind of know I need to go back to it. And many of us go back to unread, mark that email as unread because it stays bold, right? We use that same concept. So now we have the option to do the same kind of process inside our chat, right? Because like I said, we got so many things we're interrupted with, and now I need to focus on this, but I need to go back to this. And how am I going to do that with just by remembering? Not a good idea, right? So now we have the option to mark it as unread as well. So that is huge. So the other thing you can do in here is we can just send just emojis, period. We can go ahead and just add an emoji, and Jolene can send an emoji too if she wants, and that just expresses, it's just a whole separate communication, right? Or you can do an emoji, and this thing needs to go away. This, and I can write something after it. Hi, how are you? Whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh because it's acting like I'm not read it there. So the other thing we can do then is inside here is you can forward an entire conversation of your inbox. So let's pretend Jolene and I are just kind of getting a little testy with each other, or hey, maybe we need to escalate this to our boss, or hey, we need help. This is now has gotten to be a really formal conversation. We just need some assistance, or hey, we need to ask John. You have the capability of actually forwarding a conversation as well. So let me go back to my chat here. I should have enabled my communications so I don't see that pop up. Oh, it's really snowing right now. I'm sitting here waiting for my computer to go. I'm going to pop it back up just so you guys can see it better today. So you notice you have 3 dots in Google Land. It always means 3 dots, ... Google has more for you. You have the option to actually forward this to your inbox. So what does that do? If I forward this conversation to my inbox, it's going to take wherever I left off for that point, and it's going to go ahead and send me that. So then I can maybe type up an email to Corey, to John. Hey, this is the conversation that Jolie and I had about this topic. And then I would then be able to forward it on to somebody else saying, hey, we need your help. This is what we discovered. And so I don't have to recap it all. So this is an example of that forward chat, and you can see and so much more. And then I can then forward it on to the person that needs to, or maybe I just wanted to bring this to my own inbox. I don't know, fill in the blank what you might want to use that for, but this does give it some kind of a historical in a streamlined sentence or streamlined conversation, and then you have it in your actual inbox as well. So you can do that for many reasons. You might want to do that. So this one down here where I wrote OCIO Trainer 13, that's me today. You'll notice I spelled things incorrectly, and maybe I should probably fix it because, you know, the word not is really important in a sentence when you mean not, and I do that a lot. I always forget that word not. I'm like, not done, right? Whatever the case may be. And that's really important when someone's reading a message and asking me if I did something, right? So we forget words when we're typing sometimes, and we might need to go back and edit that message. So you can do that. Either record, this hi, how are you, is on record, and the message that I edit is both on record, meaning it's both on history. So don't think that that's going to be adjusting your vault history. It's not. So I can go ahead and click on the pencil icon of something that I wrote. I can actually edit that message, and I can then change the correct spelling, like hi, how are you? There, I'm going to spell it correctly, and now I can update it. And so now you can see then when Jolene looks at that, it's good to go. So I'm going to mark these all unread. There we go. So with that, what else am I forgetting on that? We're going to talk more of these things as well, because a lot of these things are available in all of these options, group chat, spaces, and so much more. But the one thing I am going to point out here is you do have the capability of adding a video meet. So like, remember going back to that cubicle conversation, Julie and I probably would sit there and talk to each other. But we don't really have that option anymore in person, right? But Julie and I do this all the time, don't we, Julie? We're like, hey, I'm not following you, Jessica. What language are you talking? Hey, I need you to look at this, whatever, fill in the blank, and I want to meet real quick on the go. I don't want to set up a calendar invitation. We're already talking. We're ready to talk. So then I can just go ahead and click on the Google Meet option. And if we wanted to, she's going to join that meet. And now we're ready to join now. We don't have to set up a calendar invitation, nothing. Let's meet and talk now. No different than me walking to the cube and saying, hey, let's talk now. Be polite about it, though. Can you talk? And then send them, then they should send you a Google Meet if they say yes. And then we would just join the Google Meet directly from here. So that's another option. What else do we got going on here on this one? So that's kind of, we're going to talk more about these, like I said, in the next section, but they all kind of apply to all of them. So we're just not going to talk all of them at the same time. So the next thing we're going to do is actually, going back to that infographic that we talked about. There's spaces, which is more of a team. A group is something that you have an option as well. You can start a group conversation. So a group conversation would be a part of your team, right? So let's think about this for a minute. So let's do it in real scenario. Jolene is my communication specialist. I'm the trainer, and John is a Google admin. We're working on mobile devices. So John is more the mobile person. So we don't really need to include Corey on this. We don't need to include Darwin on this. We just don't need everybody on this project or this conversation. No one needs unwanted conversation. So I just want to select a few of our members to talk, right? That's a true example. So it's just a group of us. So I'm going to go ahead and start a group conversation. So what you do is click on the plus button and you can start a group conversation. Then you select the emails that you want to talk to. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and do trainer 1, which she's not on them right now, so she's not going to participate. But trainer 5 is Jolene, so she's going to help participate. So it's the group of me. 13 group, trainer 13 group, trainer 1 and trainer 5 are part of this group, this project, not the entire team, right? So once you type in the email addresses, you can go ahead and click on the blue check box, and you can go ahead and select that. Now I'm going to have a brand new chat over here. It's kind of deceiving because they're both OCIO.training, but you would have their picture icon, kind of gives you a visual indicator of who those users are. So the good news is this is a new feature that wasn't available when we launched the integrated workspace. So if for some reason we left chat out by accident and we're like, oh, we need chat involved on this, I could actually add chat to this chat. And I'll have to start a brand new conversation. That's huge because that's how it should work. Like if now here's the conversation and now I want to add Chad to it, Chad should be part of this group conversation, I can do that. So that's a really nice feature that's available. I'll show you that in a minute. But that's a kind of a feature that wasn't available when we launched the integrated workspace the first time. So with that, same thing, history's on, be nice, be kind. We have then option, same thing, hi, and so much more, right? Some things that have rolled out recently that didn't roll out when we went to the new integrated workspace is some new features. So let's dive into that a little bit more. One, this is brand new, and I haven't done a current update on this. I think I'm lacking, but they keep showing things when I'm training. You have the option to do some text editing. So this is nice. So what you can do is I'm going to say hi and help. and I can actually make the word help be bold. That's emphasizing it. Okay, you have some other options as well as bullet, strike through, underline, italics, and so on. So that's under the A. This should look familiar to you. It's the same A that you have inside Gmail as well. Okay, so you have that option. You can see that you can emphasize whatever text you're trying to point out, right? So the A, it gives you some rich text capabilities of editing that. The emoji we already talked about. This one is a new update as of last year. It's adding a GIF. I think this is fun. We can add some of our feelings. We're missing some of that emotion, you know, right? Because you see each other behind a screen, and if you're not showing your camera, really can't see your emotion. And when I'm sending you a message, I might misunderstand what you're trying to say. Was she trying to be nice? Was that emotion? Was that funny? I don't know. Well, this gives us ability to express ourselves some more, right? We love our memes. We love our GIFs, whatever side you're on. But whatever you're feeling, you can add, I like the happy dance. I'm going to add that one. You have the capability of expressing some of your feelings with GIFs. So that's a nice feature. And they're all PG-13. So we're good there. The other things you can start. Oh, go ahead.
Jessica, I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. So I don't have those when it's minimized. I only see those options when it's
full screen.
Full screen. So I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about that. So I do not have a GIF or the ability to edit the text and add bold or anything like that when it's just the small, in the lower screen. You have to expand it to be able to have those options.
Thank you for saying that. I forget that. You're right. And that is so true. So, and actually we did point that out when we do make the post on the GIFs for sure. We said that you have to be in full screen. So yes, so you can see the benefit of full screen at times. So thank you, Jolene, so much. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. You don't see the A though in the small screen either, right? Because that's brand new.
No. Yeah, I don't see the A. So when it is smaller, yep, this is perfect. So when it is smaller, we've just got you've got the plus and the where you can add additional things. So you have the emoji, and now I'm seeing the GIF on there. This is really weird because it just did a weird refresh. So I think that it's just kind of going through some changes, but just making sure that people know where to find those, depending on, this is my favorite part about training on the fly with Google stuff, right? Exploding it, there's two different ways to look at it, and there's kind of those two different views. But as of right now, I do not see the A with the underline being in the smaller.
Right. And that's
so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to mention that real quick.
And this is what happens when I know they're making a whole bunch of changes, especially when they're trying to make the layout change. They're probably updating some of this too, because the A is new, and some of the other things, and obviously the new integrated workspace. So when they do that, it kind of throws us off when we're training because we're like so used to seeing it one way. So this is where we just have to adapt and realize that it's either coming out to you soon or it's there in certain screens. And so just bear with us. If you have questions, let us know. But yeah, it's kind of one of those lessons learned here. But they're definitely making changes to this. So we have to just kind of bear with it. With that, you do have the option. This should be there for all users. You have the option to attach a Google Drive and calendar invite. Now that might be different depending on your view, right? So keep that in mind as well, because if you're in a space, it might give you docs, it might give you sheets. This is depending on how it's set up sometimes. So you do have the plus button. You could send a calendar invitation if you wanted to, and then it brings up your calendar option here as well. So they've made a lot of enhancements here. So I can quickly, and it does the find the friends. I can see that trainer 13 and trainer 5 were available at whatever time. We could go at 3 o'clock. So it's a quick way like, hey, we can't meet about this topic. Going back to Julie and I were talking, and I'm like, hey, I don't have time right now. Could you send me a calendar invite? I don't even have to go to my Google Calendar right now. I could just click on the plus button and do a calendar invite, and you could see your calendar in your lovely sidebar that we've talked about a lot as well. So just knowing that that's there. You can always attach a Google Drive file, which we'll do in the spaces here shortly. It is a little different. Let's go ahead and just add one just for fun. So it'll pull it for Google Drive, and you can attach a file. I'm really slow today. Come on.
So I just took a screenshot of what I can see, Jess, and I'm just filling in some time while our computers are catching up today because I think they also wanted to have an ice/snow day. And so what I showed there is what I see when it's minimized, right? Like
Okay.
I typically use mine small.
Mhm.
And so then that's the view I'm kind of used to.
Yep. I'm going to refresh here in a minute. All right, let's go back. There we go. So this is, oh my goodness gracious. So this is the image that Jolene's talking about what she sees in the small screen. So it's just slightly different in the pop-up or the smaller screen on the bottom. All righty, so let's try adding a file again. And there it is. It's acting funny today for some reason. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go to, we'll just do the Google Docs. We'll just create one from scratch. It is acting funny today. First thing you do, create a document. Let's go. We'll just say go is the name of the document. And I don't have to go to Google Drive to create a Google Doc. It'll just automatically create a Google Doc, and then it will then provide me an option to send it to Jolene today. It's creating a document. Also,
It's thinking.
it's thinking. I appreciate you guys' patience today. I don't think it's me though. Oh, anyway, it's supposed to work that way. I don't want you guys to have to sit there and watch, but you just go there and create a document, and then it'll go in here. I'll refresh one more time. If you can't laugh at yourself, who's going to laugh at you?
Oh, I will. I'm here for you, Jess.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. I mean, I could turn on my camera and show you that I'm doing the happy dance that little girl in the GIF is doing, but this lives on forever. So I think I'll respectfully decline that.
Okay.
that option while we try. Oh, there we go. Yay, it worked. It worked.
Okay. So there you go. So it creates a Google Doc, automatically shares it. And then if Jolene wanted to, she could go right here and we both could type on it as we go. And that's the beauty of working together, right? Collaboration, and collaboration some more. So that's one thing we can do. You can see that Jolene is on there now, and we're on this. We're not leaving our Gmail integrated workspace. That's the key. Like the integrated workspace is just to kind of give you the option to just be in one-stop shop, right? You don't have to go to your drive. You notice we didn't have to go to calendar. We got a chat inside here. We can do a Google Meet from here. And where have we left? We haven't left Gmail once, right? We haven't left that workspace. So it's becoming an all-in-one. That's the purpose of it. If you're wondering what the purpose of it is that we all work in one little spot here, right? So it's just kind of, especially in our hybrid remote time. So just put that in perspective as well. And if you need it in a bigger screen, you can always pop it open into a new tab, which will give you the open in new tab, which you have the full screen of that Google Doc. But you can see like right now, especially in a smaller screen, this would be really good. We're just collaborating in a chat. We don't even have to leave. So it just gives you that capability. And it's automatically shared to those members because they're part of the members, right? They have access to it. So, so keep that in mind. Notice though on this one, this is a true Google Doc. If this was a Microsoft Word, you wouldn't have the option to open in chat. Okay, so keep that in mind. Your Office files, you don't have the option to actually open it inside this window. They're not Google Docs editors, right? And we'll give you an example of that in Spaces. So keep that in mind as well. So some of the things you need to realize, and again, this will depend on the full screen mode or the smaller mode. So just as to what I'm going to give you a little snapshot understanding. If you see the drop down in the full screen mode, that's very similar to the 3 dots in the smaller view. So 3 dots in Google's ... Google has more. In a very similar manner, the drop down does the same capability. So you should be able to see the same features when you're in the smaller view. And I'll double check my theory in a minute. But in that drop down, you have the option to view your members. So right now, I could click view members and it should be the 3 of us, trainer 13, 1, and 5. So now You can see that. I could add, and I'm going back to that scenario. Oh, we kind of left chat out. I need to add chat in here. I could go here and add another person to this group. This is a group conversation, so keep that in mind. So I can't add more. That's a huge benefit. So the other thing you have is you obviously add people and bots. You can now convert this to a space if you want to. And we'll talk about the benefits of spaces versus groups in a minute. But there you might already have a really good group that is part of your team. Like might be the Google Team group conversation you've been using, not a space. And you might think, I really want to change this to a space. And you can see why you might want to turn it into a space once we get into the space concept. So keep that in mind. You can turn this group into a space. I'm not going to talk about webhooks, but you can also see we've talked about this mark is on red. We've talked about that concept already. Pin, what does pin mean? Pin means it's kind of like your favorites, right? If I had a whole bunch of chats with a whole bunch of people, I would want to put that conversation, the people I talk with the most, at the top of my list. Jolene is on the top of my pinned list. John is on the top of my pinned list. Chad is on top of my pinned list. Why? Because I talk to them all the time via chat. So if they're important to you, pin them. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that pin. And you can see now, like obviously in a trainer account, there's only 2 conversations, but that conversation is now towards the top. Okay. So if you talk to someone in chat all the time and can't find them, pin them. And again, you should see these same things in the 3 dots. Notifications, if this is a group conversation, you might want to customize the notifications. I don't know. You might want less bombarding information from this group, right? I don't know. Maybe you want to even turn it off. That's up to you, but you can adjust your notifications per group or space down the road. Maybe you want to leave this group. Okay, you can notice that you say you can return. And again, I would be concerned about blocking a space. I'm not sure why you want to block it. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm saying things correctly because today's hard for me today. I'm going to go back to my inbox and I'm going to pull up in the small view so you can see the 3 dots and just see the different features in the small view versus the full screen. And again, I like to do the full screen when I'm training so you can see it better. But the 3 dots gives you the same capabilities. It should in the small view as it does. Whew. 3 dots in Google means more, right? And so you can see there's some options. And search is one of them there as well, which we could have done in the large screen as well. So just kind of make aware that you can get to both of those features and changes by the 2 different ways. Drop down in the full screen, 3 dots in the little screen. I just want to read this following statement verbatim. This is what we stole and borrowed when we talk about the different hats. We got the direct message that Jolene and I were talking, just her and I, right? That's just kind of really no explanation needed for that, right? But when do you use group messages versus spaces? So let's just talk group messages again, which we just did, like the small users of us. Group messages chat directly with a few people on a ad hoc basis. For example, you might want to have a quick discussion about a specific question after a meeting. Okay, that would be one reason, right? So that's just kind of what they have written for why you would use a group message. Okay, so again, it's not a true team in a sense, in my opinion, just a part of your team is how I would use it. So speaking of teams, let's talk about spaces, which is probably the most unused portion of Google Workspace inside the integrated workspace, but I love it. Okay, so we're going to talk more about it. So objective 5, let's chat with your team. So for my example, I'm a Google team member. Jolene's a Google team member. I've talked about that. I'm just giving you a real life scenario, right? There's 5 of us, right? And we are part of a team. We have a Google team space. Okay, it has a lot of our files, it has our task, it sends the agenda that we're going to do. Sometimes I'm even lazy and I just type the agenda in the chat, whatever the case may be. But that is where we go when the team needs to communicate to all members instead of an email, right? So what you need to know, I gave you the 1-pager earlier that we talked about. That kind of goes over what you need to know when you're thinking about using spaces. So that's a great resource for you. One thing to keep in mind, depending on how big your team is when you do create a team or a space, is what I would call it. It is a space. You might want to think about how you want to distribute that team. Now, the Google team is not a very big team, right? But if I was a division administrator of whatever, and there's like 50 people. That's a lot to add individually. And you might have some turnover, right? That's a true scenario, right? But you really do want to create a space that you want to communicate saying, hey, we get such and such a day off. Hey, enjoy your afternoon off, right? Whatever. But you want to communicate it to the entire team. Probably that team of 50 probably already has a Google group created, right? So you might want to actually, when you distribute this space, you might want to actually share it in a Google group email distribution, okay? And we're going to actually do that. So keep that in mind. So if you have a bigger team, you don't want to add all these members individually, you can do so. So if Jolene left the Google team and I shared it via Google group, she's not going to have access to that because we're going to remove her from that Google group. Do you see like how that also helps your onboarding and offboarding? If I left and went to DAS for some reason, I'm no longer really part of the Google team anymore, right? I went to a different agency, right? And so they remove me from that group, I'm going to be removed from that space. So keep that in mind as well. So, and what the definition of spaces are, let's just read it verbatim. Central location where teams can communicate and work together on projects on an ongoing basis. So another great case scenario is project A, project B, project C, right? This space so members can share files, assign tasks, and stay connected at one place. Sounds amazing. So let's do one. So we're going to do it and we're going to follow best practice as well if things work out the way we want it to today. So we're going to go down here to spaces. And again, you can go to the plus sign. You'll notice that it has different options, the same options that you had earlier. But I'm going to go ahead and create a space. So this time it's a space. And you want to name the space. You need to name it like Google Team, whatever the case may be. I'm going to go ahead and name it, so I stay on task, training space. And then you can start adding your members. Now notice it's even saying enter the name, email, person, or group, right? It's even kind of telling you maybe a group might be a good idea. So let's do what I'm recommending, best practice, right? So I have a group created, ZZZ training group at iowa.gov. I think I do. 2 AZs. There we go. So that is a Google group. It has the members of Trainer 1, Trainer 2, Trainer 3, Trainer 5, and Trainer 13 as part of that group. So once you decide that, they're automatically going to get an invitation to this space. The next question you need to ask yourself is, do you want to use threaded replies? I like threaded replies. And that means like it's separate conversations, right? So organizes the conversation into different threads, like email, right? It's not an ongoing conversation. So Jolene might have started a conversation about A, I started a conversation about B, and John started a conversation about C. Well, if you don't turn that thread on, you're just going to have an ongoing ABC all collided when really they're 3 different conversations. That's my opinion, but you have to make that decision, okay? The other thing you need to make a decision on, is this going to actually go to another user that's outside the state of Iowa that have a Google account, okay? They have to have a Google account to access this group, this space, okay? So, because they have to have the application to run it, okay? You need to make that decision. So if it's obviously a team of 50 inside the state of Iowa that are Google users, that's not going to really apply. But if you're working with a vendor and you want to have, like Jolene's vendor manager, right? She might want to talk to that vendor and me and a few other people, right? She might want to then allow people outside in this group conversation, right? But in this case scenario, we're not going to do that, but do know you have to make that decision. So I'm going to go ahead and click create. Oh, you can add a little fun little emoji. Let's do that because that's fun. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Okay, we're going to hit create. So then it's going to fall under the category of spaces on the bottom left-hand side. And I'm going to just stay in full screen here. And you notice since we haven't started anything, we have the option to add people, share a file, assign tasks. We're going to talk more about that. But you'll notice right away, I want to point something out. This is totally different than a group. And this is why you might want to change some of your group conversations, the one that Julie and I just left, into a space, because you have the chat section, you have the files section, which we'll talk more about in a minute, and you have the task section. You don't have these tabs available in the group one. Let's just make sure that I'm saying things right. Notice we're back into the group conversation with the three of us, the small users, right? The small specific users that we're talking about. There is no files, there is no task, there is no, there's chat, obviously, right? So just that is maybe why you might want to turn this one into a space, right? Because you have more options in a space if it's a true team collaborative thing. So with that, let's start a new conversation. So I'm going to just go ahead and type hi team. And Jolene will respond if she wants. As you have the same things, right? We have the emoji, the GIF. We can upload a file. We could do the Google Meet. We have the option over here to add files, calendar invitations, all the same stuff that we have. Okay. So pretty much the same things we just did with the direct messages in the conversation. But what's so different about this one is when we actually attach files and tasks. We're going to do that next. That's kind of the difference between spaces. Okay. So what we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a Google Doc. I'm going to go and I'm going to actually this time, in theory, add it from my Google Drive. So I have a Google Doc that I've already started, and now I want to share it to the team. I have a project proposal. I want their input on this. What did they think about this project proposal? So I could have pulled it from my drive. I could have uploaded it from my desktop, whatever the case may be. You have options. You can see that upload my drive. You have access to all that. Okay. Just doing for training purposes. I'm going to go ahead and select this project proposal, and I want team to collaborate. Now, since I have not shared this on the back end to my team, I would then have to make that decision now. I'm going to then, I want my whole team to be able to edit. I could just give them view rights if I choose to, but I want my whole team to have access to this. So I'm going to go ahead and edit. So that gives Jolene capability to edit this document. Now, you'll notice this is a Google Doc, just like what we saw earlier. You have the option to open and chat. So Jolene could be collaborating on this right now, and we both could be collaborating inside our Gmail chat right now. So when you hover over and you see that option, you see that open and chat feature. Okay. Now you do have options up here at the files. So now that this is a space, you go to the files. Notice now I actually have that in the list of files. And I could go directly to that chat when that file appeared. So I can go directly to that chat when that file appeared as well. How cool is that? Who gave me that file? Who did what with that file? Why do I need to look at this file? And so much more. So it's like a whole nother bin that we have available here for us. You can actually go right here and add a file if you want to. So keep that in mind as well. So really nice feature. So in this case, I'm going to do an Excel file just so you understand what that looks like too, because there is a difference between Microsoft Office files and Google Doc Editor. So we understand that Microsoft Office files are Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, the most used ones, right? Then we have in Google Docs, we have Google Doc Editors is Docs, Sheets, and Slides. We understand that they're kind of corresponding apps to each other. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and attach a Microsoft Excel. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit insert. Now I'm going to go back to the chat. And I'm asking again, do I want to give them edit rights to this? And the answer is yes. Now, this is a newer feature. When we launched Integrated Workspace, we weren't allowed to open up these. It would just show in preview. Well, that's really stupid. So now they got it better for us. But we don't have the option to open up in the chat feature. But we still get to collaborate. We can still use those Microsoft Office files if we want to, because we can open up in the corresponding app. So I can go ahead and open this Microsoft Excel file, watch what it's doing. It is now going to open in a new tab, and it's going to load the corresponding app. So in this case, this was a Google or Microsoft Excel file. The corresponding app is Google Sheets. Jolene can actually open that. She's going to get the same exact prompt. She's going to be asked to open up in Google Sheets, and we can collaborate on this document at the same time. It just doesn't give us the full capability as inside the chat, but we still get the option to collaborate and collaborate and collaborate some more. And it's going to stay the Microsoft Excel file as shown, because if you hover over it, it says it's still saying a Microsoft Excel. It also will show you in our files, it's listed under our files as well. So you can see how many times you were like, oh, someone sent me that document in chat, and maybe it wasn't a space. So if it's in a space, you have another way of quickly finding that file, right? Can you not see the benefit of this as a team? Definitely for a project. Yeah, so all your files that you're looking for are right inside here. So really nice feature. So we just know that the Google Docs editors, such as Docs, Sheets, and Slides, will be able to edit in here. And then the Excel files or Microsoft Word files, we just have to go one extra click a little bit to be able to collaborate at the same time. So you notice when you're inside the chat feature, I mean, this is like exactly Google Docs, right? So you have that option to have it right inside your window and not leaving where? Gmail. So what's the other cool thing inside Spaces that you do not have available in the other chat options, such as group chat or individual direct messages, is the option to assign tasks. So again, remember, this is a team collaboration. This is a space where we can assign tasks or whatever the case may be, but we're working on a project, right? You can go to task inside here and you can actually assign tasks and put due dates, and it actually integrates inside your own personal tasks. So let's do an example. I can go under task and I can say check communication. And I'm not going to fix this spelling. So I guess I will. And then I'm going to add a date and time. I'm going to say it's due tomorrow at 8 a.m. and hit OK. And I believe Jolene should do this. Or maybe I'll do it. There we go. Because I want to do it. Okay, because I want to show it on my screen. I forgot. So then I'm going to go ahead and I can add more details if I want to, gibberish, and hit add. So now what's really cool about this is that now this is a new task inside my space. But remember, in our previous training that we had last week, we talked about Google Task a lot, right? And we talked about how cool this is. And you'll notice the check communication, which I just added inside my space, is now available to see inside my own task. So I know that this task was assigned to me. Guess who's got to do it? Me. So we can do that as well. So that's really a good way to make aware of that. So I'm going to guess I left Jolene off of that group. So I'm going to add Jolene to that group, just in case I needed her. Okay. So with that, that's a really nice feature. And again, then I could go over here in my task and I can mark it done. And you can see over here, you have a completed task at the bottom. The really cool thing is, I'm going to mark this unchecked. You have some sorting capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and add another one. And I'm going to hit add. And now you can see, like, you can actually sort it by assignee, date, and so much more. And you have the 3 dots in Google. You have the option to do a few more here. Space order, you have date, or assignee. So you can see how powerful this could be in a project. Let me see what else I'm forgetting. Same thing to do a Google Meet in here. So like go down here, we have the same capabilities. We can create a doc on the go. We do the calendar invite, add from Drive. We have the emoji, so much more. Calendar invite, we have all that. Okay. So it's pretty much the same thing we just got done discussing. The other thing I want to point out is another resource for you on this document. You will see, should I use a room or a group message? This is where, again, you have to figure out what is your case scenario? What is your business need? And I don't know that without you asking, like, how many people? What is the purpose of it? And so again, Google is another resource for you. When should you use Spaces? When should you use group conversations? When should you use Google Groups? This is another resource to make a best decision on your own case scenario. So definitely check that out for you as well. If you need to, like, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to do. Oh, this doesn't do this. You know, make that best decision on the data that's given you. So again, I don't know what your case is, and I don't want to go over all the cases that we could possibly do, but I do want to make sure you have the resources for that. So the other thing is you can actually search in chats. So let's just break this down in the Google Doc. We have the advanced search option in Gmail that we can do. We're going to talk about chat.google. Oh, sorry. You also have an option to access chat through a PWA. So I want to talk about those three things just briefly. It talks about searching as well. I'm not going to dive into searching that well, but I want to make sure you know you can access chat not only in the integrated workspace, but using these other options as well. Because you might not like it inside your integrated workspace. You maybe want it to be a separate app. I don't know. You don't, you know, right? And so I just want to point that out here today. So with that, first of all, you can search, and the search works pretty much the same. You can type in a keyword up here, hi, whatever you're doing. And this is going to be one of those things that's going to change in the future. But you do have the option, if you're searching for the word hi, that's not going to be a very good one to search for. You do have the option to filter down your search using the search chips and selecting chat and spaces. So I'm going to go ahead and select chat and spaces, and then you can see that I have now just the chat and spaces conversations appearing and no longer my mail appearing. So that's one way you can do that. You can then even break it down by maybe looking for a particular person in there if you wanted to, and so much more. So you can use the advanced search option up here. And I think I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because more is to come and change on this. But just know that you want to definitely use the search chips to change this chat and spaces on that as well. The other place you can actually access chat if you don't like it so much in your integrated workspace is actually in the standalone app inside your Google Workspace environment. So I want to point this out as well because it kind of ties in within the integrated workspace in the sense of chat. Chat is such a big function of our daily use anymore. So you got to find the best way it works for you. I go back and forth, to be honest. Sometimes I use the integrated workspace. Sometimes I need it to be on a separate app because I'm constantly bombarded by so many different chats. It just depends on my day, to be honest. But you can access the waffle and access chat.google. That will access this particular page as well, which is all your chats that you just saw in your integrated workspace is also going to appear here. So it's just chat.google. Obviously, it's the first time I've been in this chat in this account, but you can see the exact same things that you saw on the left-hand side. You have chat, spaces, and meet here as well. So again, you might want to do this, and you can kind of see, like I can look and find any chat conversation with trainer 5. I just have a little more searching capability, I think, in the chat.google. It's a little less clunky, in my opinion. So sometimes if I'm really having a hard time finding a chat, I will go here. You have the option to search up here, just a little bit more user-friendly in the sense of what you're trying to do. Okay. So, but the same capabilities that you see. You still have your sidebar over here. You have the same features that we discussed earlier. It just gives you a full screen mode. You no longer have email in your way, and so much more. It just depends on how you like it. Do you want less clutter? Do you want it in one space? I don't know. Fill in the blank for you. The other thing you may want to do, though, I have done this as well, is that you can actually make it a standalone app in the sense of your taskbar. So down here on your taskbar, you have your apps, right? You would have maybe your Word open, you have Excel open, you've got your Chrome open, you've got your multiple profiles. That's your taskbar at the bottom has your apps that are open. You can make Google Meet and chat a PWA. Don't expect you to remember that. It's called Progressive Web App. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Inside your chat.google or meet.google, you can actually click on this little icon at the top, up at the top of the URL, and you can install it. Anybody can do this. You don't have to be an admin to do this. This is just an install that actually will, notice now, make a brand new app window for you on your taskbar. So you can see at the bottom here, you have a taskbar. And so it just gives you the capability of toggling between apps. So some people like that, right? Because I'm in my Gmail and Drive inside my Chrome web interface, but I really want to have chat be a totally different app in a sense in my taskbar. So you have that capability as well. And you can do the exact same thing within Google Meet, which a lot of people might like because Zoom is a very similar fashion. It's another app that you have installed on your computer, right? So the same concept with chat, you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing with Google Meet. It's a standalone app. It's called a PWA that you are able to do all the things that you're used to doing, and it all syncs together. And now you would just go directly to your chat app. No different than going to your Microsoft Word app, no different than going to your Excel app. So I want to make sure like that went pretty fast, but guess what I provided you? I have a current post right here that walks you through that process, that you can do that for both Meet and chat. So if you're really interested, like, I didn't know I could do that, it's kind of hidden gem that you can actually use as progressive web apps for both chat and Meet. And you can walk through that process and you can have your chat open all the time down here. So again, it depends on your needs. It depends on what you're used to, and that will hopefully help you. Last thing, we're almost out of time. We've had some little technical difficulties. We're going the way we need to go, I guess, today. But we do have what we call space or Meet down here. Sorry, we've talked about spaces already. You can adjust this horizontal bar if you want to. This is something you can do if you need more real estate horizontal. I don't know why I keep trying to show things today. Okay, so down here we have meetings, and I can create a meeting on the go, and you can barely see it in the bottom here. But what I do, as I mentioned earlier, I go to my meetings 90% of the time directly from here, and I actually put a sample in here so you can see it. If you have a Google Calendar that is actually tied to a Google Meet, not a Zoom meeting, sorry guys, it's not going to be here. It doesn't fall into the category of Meet, does it? If it's a Zoom meeting, or if there's no Meet tied to it, it's just an individual, hey, meeting with myself, it's not going to be here. It has to have a Google Meet tied to that calendar invitation. Repeat that. The Google Calendar invitation has to have a Meet tied to it. Then it falls into this category of my meetings with Google Meet. Knowing that, this is where you also can quickly join future meetings or join a meeting on the go, join a meeting or create a new meeting on the go. So guess what? I don't have to go to meet.google. I don't have to go to my calendar. I don't have to go find that link. If it's tied to a calendar invitation with a meeting link to it, you'll be able to join right here. So like I said, I get frustrated when someone sends me a Zoom one. I'm like, I have to go to my calendar and go find the Zoom information. No, if it's in Google Meet, I go here. I go here and I can find what I have to do and join that meeting virtually, which is what I do for some. But there's some people that don't do it, so I have to go to my calendar and make those extra steps. But this does help me on the other 75% of my meetings where I join via Google Meet. So this is really just a quick little thing. And what you can find now, if you haven't figured it out, is you have your Meet, you have your Spaces, you have your chat, and your email, and some of your docs, some of your files, some of your tasks, all in what? One integrated workspace. So we talk about tab anxiety being a real thing, like we're jumping around all the time. Google knows that that's a true thing, right? We got too much going on. They're trying to keep it in one space for us, so we're not going all over our browser. And you can see that I hardly left chat or Gmail at all unless I messed up, or I'm trying to show you something that you can access in a different way. So see, what else am I forgetting here? Oh, I do want to show one more thing here at the end. So Google Meet is not, this is not Google Meet training. But again, as we mentioned, there was 2 requests regarding one-pagers. Google Meet was one of them, especially during the 2020 time, like everything's going virtually. This is another great resource for those that are struggling with Google Meet or even having a guest join a Google Meet for the first time. It's a great resource that you can share. It has the capability of kind of talking about all the features, and this is an up-to-date document. So for example, we can now have a Google Meet with 500 participants, which was not always the case. It was originally was 250. So now we can have 500 interactive attendees, which is huge. So with that being said, you can use this one pager to provide resources for not only yourself, but other users inside or outside the state of Iowa. It is shared properly for that purpose. With that, Jolene, that was not my best rodeo. So what can I do to make it better? So anything else?
I think you did great. I think you did fine. You did awesome, as always.
No, it was not my finest moment. We had some technical difficulties, and I think honestly it's because it is changing a little bit. I think I can see some of the material design is kind of changing. We're just trying to adapt to it. So you guys kind of got to know. You have to know, right? You got the information ahead of time, and we'll send out a mass communication once we see it in full effect, where we can toggle opt in and toggle out if we want to. With that, if you guys have any questions, since I don't feel very comfortable or confident, either one in that presentation, please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And for those that are watching this video at a later time, hopefully by the time you watch this, you have the new integrated workspace and you're ready to go and you have the resources at your fingertips. With that, I hope you guys stay safe today. And other than that, have a great day and thank you for joining.